It's a new year here at the New York Stock Exchange. In fact, it's one of the most anticipated years in recent memory. After record highs achieved by all the major U.S. indices, that NASDAQ tech titans making big moves across the board, and no matter where I go on the street this week, Wall Street are completely focused on the year 2024, especially when I talk to business owners who are looking to plan and meet their 2024 goals. And for any business, one of the key goals is, of course, profitability. And one of the big dreams? Going public. Yes, regardless of the size of a business, who would not want the validation of growth and success by going public? But going public is no walk in the park. There's a lot of steps to be taken in order to make an IPO happen, the process multi-tiered and not always a smooth one, as it involves a lot of parties getting on the same page. But for those growth companies, those businesses looking to explore the process of going public, this right here is the man you want to meet. Peter Goldstein, founder and CEO of Exchange Listing, a seasoned entrepreneur and capital market expert with over 30 years of experience. And he's also the author of The Entrepreneur's IPO, a practical book that outlines exactly what to expect when pursuing a small cap or micro IPO. And since it's written by him, enough for me. Let's hear what Peter Goldstein has to say about his book.
Yeah, it was my debut book. You know, I've been an entrepreneur since my early 20s. I've taken my own companies public, and I've been a licensed investment banker, and I've always felt there was a knowledge gap for entrepreneurs who have the dream and vision of wanting to do an IPO. So I wrote a book, with a very practical book, more like a guide on the steps that you can do to prepare and properly execute and to understand what it takes to go from startup to scale up to expansion to ringing the bell and growing your company as an early stage, either small or micro cap company.
So let's make this clear. The Entrepreneur's IPO, not a book about Peter Goldstein himself. The Entrepreneur's IPO, more of a guide for growth businesses looking to embark on the IPO process. So I had to ask Peter the simple question: how did such a book come about? What sparked a gentleman like himself to write the Entrepreneur's IPO? Is it just a desire to share the knowledge? For that answer, we go back to Peter.
My business now is I advise other entrepreneurs in the process of going public. And what I realized was that, there were many others that have that same dream like I did when I first did mine, which was over 25 years ago. And I didn't know where to turn. I could turn to a banker, I could turn to a lawyer, but I didn't really have an advisor. And so that's really what I want to do, be able to kind of give back to the entrepreneurial community. And there are many generations who are younger who have that dream of one day, but don't know what it's going to take and how to even begin to prepare for a proper pathway to an IPO. So in my own journey, I went through it, and I want to be able to share and give back that knowledge so that others who have that dream can realize their vision. Going public is very chaotic. It's very complex. There are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of pitfalls, and there are a lot of things that you really need to understand for a first-time CEO of going public that take a significant amount of experience, both in the capital markets, and legal, the reporting and the financial requirements, as well as what does it take to migrate your own leadership from being an entrepreneur of a private company and a CEO and perhaps a founder into CEO without being a public company.
Now, I could not let this interview end without asking an IPO expert about one of the more highly debated topics of late regarding going public: direct listings. Back in December 22nd, 2020, the U.S. SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, announced that it will allow companies to raise capital through direct listings, paving the way for circumventing the circumvention of the traditional IPO process. While many companies choose to do an initial public offering in which new shares are created, underwritten, and sold to the public, some companies they choose a direct listing in which no new shares are created and only existing outstanding shares are sold with no underwriters involved whatsoever. I was curious and had to ask Peter Goldstein about his take on direct listings.
I think a direct listing is a good thing if it's properly executed, right? So the execution is the key to that. But what it does is it gives the company more control over how they're building their capital structure, which investors they're bringing in, how they're building their business. And typically direct listings have a strong following. They have a shareholder base, they have a community, and they have investors that are supporting their journey where they don't necessarily need an underwriter who will facilitate, a firm commitment offering. So it's an alternative pathway, one that I'm a big believer in as an entrepreneur. The market finds its own way to create entry into markets. Both the NYSE American, where we are, and NASDAQ, both have a place for direct listings, as well as micro cap and small cap IPOs. This year has been a very difficult year in the IPO market, worse in 3 decades. 2 years ago was the best in 2 decades. But some of the learnings from that and what you see in the way of activity are small and medium-sized companies are still going public. So one of the things that I like about direct listings is you don't have to be a unicorn. You don't have to be a VC-backed, private equity-backed company in order to want to list. And so I believe the same thing is available for companies, whether it's direct listing or an underwritten offering, to start their journey as a younger company, benefiting from the liquidity, from the capital, and of course from the currency of having stock available.
So let's get back to the book, The Entrepreneur's IPO. One has to naturally ask, how has the feedback been so far? How was the experience of writing your first book and then to receive feedback on it? And last but not least, where can the public pick up this book and find out more? For those answers, once again, Peter Goldstein.
You know, I have to tell you, I underestimated the value of writing a book, and the feedback's been very, very positive. You know, I feel very blessed. Been very well received. I've also included a number of professionals in the book giving their tips. So I took not just my knowledge, but I took the information from people who have been in the industry for quite some time. And so you'll have a section of each chapter where 2 professionals have given their tips on certain specifics. For example, bell ringing day, what to expect. For example, leading up to the SEC filings. You know, I can take you through the whole journey. There are 12 chapters. In each aspect of that, there are, in addition to my information, there are 2 professionals. So you have about 24, 25 people all giving their insights. And it's been really wonderful. I have to say, you know, surprising. I was originally started writing this during COVID, and it was more for my own personal journey and my desire to take what my knowledge base is and put it into a written form. And then doing a self-published book and marketing that book, it's been very, very rewarding and very gratifying. You know, entrepreneurs have a way and maybe it's part of that grittiness that comes with being an entrepreneur, of wanting to have an understanding of and be involved in the decision making and the execution and the implementation. I talked to a lot of different people who have written their books and published their books, spoke to a lot of different publishers. And as a first-time, debut author, I took what I would think would be the entrepreneurial route. So I work with an editor, I work with several groups to help me refine, because I'm not a technical writer, go through the process, and then we launched the book organically. We did it ourselves. We got it up onto Amazon with the help of some industry professionals, hit bestseller status in 2 categories. So doing a self-publishing route is really what I would consider like the entrepreneur's way of approaching launching a book out into the marketplace. I mean, you can find it on Amazon, you can find it on Barnes & Noble, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active. I give a lot of content information around the IPO markets to entrepreneurs. Feel free to direct message me and I can point you in the direction, as well as would love to engage with you in conversation.